Welcome to Forlì, in the heart of Romagna. Over 2,000 years ago, this was the site of Forum Livi, built by the Romans on the Via Emilia. This is a city off the beaten track, with a great cultural heritage just waiting to be discovered. A people-friendly city. Forlì is easy to reach by car, train or plane. The best way to discover this city is on foot or by bike. Viale della Libertà is filled with architectural examples of the period from the 1920s to the 1940s. The houses and buildings symbolize the eclecticism and rationalism which characterize the architectural spirit of that period. The avenue is like an invisible thread that leads you to Piazzale della Vittoria. Classicist architecture and the essential lines of rationalism. Alternating architectural features of the fascist period. The war memorial, designed by Cesare Bazzani, towers over the square on the Via Emilia. Other buildings in the square symbolize this period, such as the former Aeronautical College, designed by Cesare Valle. The statue of Icarus by the sculptor Francesco Saverio Paolozzi welcomes you at the entrance. The beautiful mosaics and wall paintings inside the college illustrate the most important moments in the history of flying. Corso della Repubblica takes you directly to the city centre in just a few minutes. Now the public gardens open up before you without interrupting the perspective. The Ravaldino fortress is just a few minutes away. In 1488, Caterina Sforza, one of the great noble women of Italian Renaissance, became regent of Forlì and governed the city from this fortress. She governed until, in the early 16th century, Cesare Borgia conquered the city with a violent battle, and it passed once again under papal rule. The Borgia coat of arms marks the point at which the cannon fire of Cesare Borgia breached the walls. At the end of the 19th century, the fortress was converted to a prison. The walkways and interiors, however, take you back to the period of communes and seigneuries, of secret passageways and cold weapons. Around the year 1000, the path of the river was changed to build the canal which runs through the city. In the past, many stretches of the canal were open. Now it is almost entirely covered, with the exception of a short stretch. It is deep enough for a man to walk almost its full length standing up. Leaving the Ravaldino fortress, take Corso Diaz, one of the city's 4 main roads. The road leads to the old Campostrino quarter, with a square dedicated to Giambattista Morgagni, a great doctor and scientist. At the back of the square there is the church of Santa Maria dei Servi, where the body of another important local figure rests, Saint Pellegrino Laziosi. The body of the saint has been resting in this church since 1345. The church also houses numerous valuable works of art. From here you can easily reach Corso della Repubblica, the city's main shopping street. Almost halfway up the street is Palazzo del Merenda, once a hospital, which now houses the city library and some important museum collections. Scholars from all over the world come here to consult the documents of the famous Fondo Piancastelli, a vast historical collection of precious documents and objects of inestimable value. Piazza Saffi is one of the largest squares in Italy. It has been the heart of the city ever since the ancient Campo dell'Abate, as it was once called, was brought within the city walls in 1212. The bloody Battle of Forlì, mentioned in Canto 27 of Dante's Inferno, ended here on the 15th of May 1282. The Abbey of San Mercuriale and the magnificent bell tower are the symbols of this city. The facade is in Romanesque style. The rose window portrays the Epiphany with Dream and the Adoration of the Magi, and is attributed to the so-called Master of the Months from Ferrara. It is considered by many to be the first three-dimensional crib in the history of art. Inside the abbey, the atmosphere is peaceful and religious. The paintings by Palmezzano and the fine decorative sculptures watch over the sepulchre of Barbara Manfredi, the young and beautiful wife of Pino Ordelaffi, Lord of Forlì. According to historical accounts, the jealous Pino Ordelaffi poisoned her. The Lombard Romanesque-style bell tower, which is more than 70 meters high, is reminiscent of the one of San Marco in Venice. Next to it there is a cloister which dates back to the Renaissance period. From the top of the bell tower there is a breathtaking view of the square and its buildings. Symbols of secular and religious power cohabit in a unique combination of styles. The centuries of history unfold before your eyes like a documentary. The city's market is held in this square. The square is named after a hero of the Risorgimento, to whom a monument in the center of the square is dedicated, Aurelio Saffi, a triumvir of the Roman Republic. On the right there is the town hall. The oldest part of the building dates back to around the year 1000. The Civic Tower rises in the small square behind the town hall. The tower, which was destroyed by the Nazis during their retreat, was faithfully rebuilt on the ruins of the foundations in the 70s. In the square there is also a small charming Renaissance loggia. At lunchtime you will be spoilt for choice. Forlì offers many different places where you can enjoy the delicious taste of Romagna. Genuine food prepared with fresh ingredients like a plate of homemade pasta or the piadina romagnola filled with salami, cured meat and local cheese, along with a good glass of wine. Cycling along the porticos of Via delle Torri, you can admire wonderful shops and a beautiful century-old wisteria which miraculously survived the bombings. When you enter Piazza Ordelaffi, you are welcomed by the imposing facade of Palazzo Piazza Pallucci, now seat of the prefecture. Once again, sacred and profane symbols coexist. The facade of the Duomo was built in neoclassical style, while the interior largely dates back to the 17th century. Inside there is a chapel which treasures the image of the Madonna del Fuoco, the patron of Forlì. Going back towards the Palazzo del Governo, on your left there is Piazza Giovanni Paolo II and the Corpus Domini church, which is part of the convent of the Clare nuns. Cycling through the old city centre is a real pleasure. The houses and buildings, with alternating styles and unusual details, take you back to different historical periods. a beautiful quiet corner that leads you back to Corso Garibaldi, the oldest of the four main avenues. It's like stepping back into the past. In Piazza Meldozzo is the Holy Trinity Church, probably the city's first cathedral. The great painter Melozzo degli Ambrogi is buried here. Some of the great works of art in this church include the monument to Domenico Manzoni, sculpted by Antonio Canova, which borders on perfection. Back on Corso Garibaldi, going towards the square, you can admire Palazzo Gaddi. In the 18th century, this medieval building was transformed into a sumptuous Baroque residence. Today it houses the Romagna Theatre Museum and the Risorgimento Museum. Casa Palmigiani, which features the characteristic Loggia dei Brocchi, is a magnificent example of the 15th century local architecture. Along Corso Garibaldi, you could also admire the imposing Palazzo del Monte di Pietà, now seat of the Cassa dei Risparmi Foundation, one of the driving forces of the city's culture. The Rialto Piazza, dominated by the zero milestone, is the starting point for more spectacular views. Shortly after, you reach the city's artistic and cultural heart, the San Domenico Museum. The monumental complex, which dates back to the 13th century, has been completely restored. Today, it is an exhibition center of international importance. The events organized attract visitors from all over the world. The San Domenico Museum houses numerous works of art. The most famous example is the statue of Ebbe by Canova. In just a few minutes you can cycle to the city park, a large green space ideal for a pleasant walk. A few kilometers away, as the crow flies, is the Morgagni Pierantoni Hospital, a center of excellence of the Italian national health system. Viewed from above, the hospital reveals its historical origins. From the path, take the long cycle path that runs along the Montone River. The path comes out in front of Schiavonia Gate at the other end of Corso Garibaldi. These are the last remains of the ancient city walls that were destroyed at the beginning of the 20th century. Corso Mazzini unfolds into the heart of Borgo San Pietro. The unfinished facade of the Carmine Church features a beautiful Istrian stone portal by Marino di Marco Cedrini. Before returning to the square, you meet the Numai Tower, the only remaining tower built in the Middle Ages to defend the noble residences of Forlì. The cycle ride ends here. It's time to get back to the airport and fly off towards new adventures. Arrivederci, Forlì.